Oh, hello. Welcome to the show. That's right. You get a double salute. No, you know what? You get a quadruple salute. That's called the quadruple salute. It's me, Mr. Comics, as everybody tends to call me. It's Chris, and you're watching the Weekly Spinner Rack, a live show where I am going to talk about things like the latest comics that came out this week, for good or bad. We're going to talk about some comic book news. When I say we, it's because there's a live chat here. Thank you, folks, for being here. And I'm planning on inking up a cover, a sketch cover for Transformers. So there's a lot on the plate tonight. Let's say hello to some of the folks in the chat room. Lovely to see so many familiar faces as well as some new names. That is awesome. Thank you, folks. And there's always a delay, so they're probably just hearing me introduce the show. It's been a good week. Back to normal, I would say, for me. I've been obviously traveling a bunch. I went to Japan, and then I went to New York. I'm finally home and back on my routine, back to work, back to a normal sleep schedule, back to eating well. So life is good. And I started to play a little bit of the Spider-Man 2 video game. It's really fun. It's really fun. Glasses on, that's right. I had a new episode of Comic Tropes come out, the one that I recorded out in Japan. And I'm really proud of it. There are a few things I probably could have still added, honestly. Some of it's the grind. You don't always have the perspective until you see a few comments and you're like, geez, that's actually something I meant to include. But overall, I think I had an essay that I liked, and it took me a long time to edit. I recorded remotely and stuff. I was really proud of it. But the YouTube algorithm just decided that it was going to tank this one. Lots of people, including my wife, told me that they never got a notification, even though they're subscribed. And the views are just bad. They're just that. There's no other way to say it. It really, really sucks to see it go like that. Am I a little stuttery tonight? It feels like the stream health is fantastic, but maybe I'm doing too much video. Let's see. Okay, you did get a notification. That's nice. Yeah, the comments on it are really great. Like, so I know that the people that have watched it have enjoyed it, which feels good. But the numbers are just awful for me anyway. Just awful. Thank you for the kind words, folks. I really appreciate it. Would I appear on someone else's podcast if they were local? Probably. I've done a lot of, podcasts and stuff, like, people that have a wide variety of views. I'm pretty much always willing to do it as long as I can fit it in my schedule. Well, I don't really spoil Astro Boy or anything. I don't really get into like how the overall plot of any of his comics and spoil the ending. Maybe a little bit, actually, like the Jungle Emperor. I guess I go talk about that a little, but more I'm talking about his life, his techniques, and what his work did in terms of innovation and stuff, because he really did influence manga probably more than any other single person. He didn't invent it, but he definitely popularized it and definitely pushed a lot of new genres to new heights. It was a really interesting guy. The one thing I guess I wish I'd included, since I've got a live show, I'll sort of use it here to talk about, is I wish I talked a little bit about one aspect of Tezuka's personality, Osamu Tezuka's personality. And that is, I think and this is speculation, but I think he may have been a bit of a jealous person. Competitive, which was good for him in terms of cranking out lots of comics or manga, whatever you want to call it. And I say that because he definitely hit a period where people weren't reading his stuff as much, in the 40s and 50s and stuff. Yeah, the 50s especially, super popular. So when I say 40s, I'm talking about like 1949, 1948. But In the 60s, he's still put out a lot of comics that sold well, but his popularity waned. And then he saw guys like Shigeru Mizuki and how popular his supernatural manga was. And I think that that really was part of what pushed Tezuka to start doing some supernatural stuff, some Gekiga, aimed at adults manga, specifically stuff like Dororo, I think was a response to how popular other guys were getting. So it was good for him in terms of, being productive, but maybe not healthy. I do wonder, could he have lived longer if he had taken time to get more rest and probably just get medically checked up on more often? I don't know. There's no way to know. It's possible that he may have noticed things earlier is all I'm saying. He had cancer. Cancer isn't like it's not like it goes away by working less, but maybe he would have noticed something earlier if he didn't work so hard. It's just something I speculate on idly. But anyway, we've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. Not tons of news, but that's why I think I'll have time to draw tonight, which is going to be fun. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, just got a little light down here against, I put it on purple against a naturally green color, and it creates a nice little effect. Do I ever use the green screen behind you for anything? I have it so that I could do green screen, but functionally, no, I don't. I just don't have that much space, to be honest. I'd love someday to sort of just rent out like some office space or something so that I could actually hang a green screen against a wall, lock down my lighting and my camera. It would be nice. Hey, EJ, we comic artists aren't in it for our health. Well, that's true no matter what. But, Osamu Tezuka took it to another level. The guy worked faster than most, but faster than like Jack Kirby. Like he created so much. Anyway, I hope you'll consider taking a look at the episode if you haven't seen it, and consider sharing it because I can use all the help I can get. But with that said, let's get into some of the news this week. I say too much, especially on a live show. Look at that. Nailed it again with a perfect thumbnail. Just look at that emotion. That just makes you curious. Oh my God, is that guy going to ruin that comic? I sure as heck hope not, because it's not mine. I told a friend I would draw on it, so we shall see what happens. And I'll just perfect layout and colors. Just nailed it. I'm just being sarcastic. Let's get into the news. Oh yeah, absolutely. He was faster than Kirby, and Kirby was fast, but when you see the sheer amount, the sheer volume, and there's even, if you look at my video, there's like a little video I have of him drawing, and he's drawing fast. He really draws fast. Anyway, so let's see. I'm going to start with some Marvel news that really sort of trickled out at the end of New York Comic Con. We got a few more details this week. They're going to have a vampire event. So they announced that this event is called Blood Hunt, which I guess is a decent title for a vampire story. You got to throw in blood, right? I don't know. What else do you call it? Vampire massacre. Vampire Fangy bites a lot. You don't call an event that. I'm so burned out on events. Let me just say this, as long as I brought this up and talk about events. Sometimes events are fun. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes they are. They're hit and miss. But boy, are the big two into events. And I grew up in a time where if there was an event, it was a miniseries or it was a crossover across annuals, or it was just like 2 issues. Like the days of like a miniseries plus it crosses over into all the titles. Boy, has that become the norm. It's a lot. And the one that really hurt me was this recent one DC did. What was it called? Night Terrors? I picked up the first issue of the miniseries. Didn't interest me. But it crossed over into all the other titles for 2 months. And I'd been enjoying a bunch of the new Dawn of DC creative refreshes for a lot of these titles. They were really good. But it just killed the momentum on a lot of those books. I lost a lot of interest in some of them. But anyway. Let's talk about Marvel's event, Blood Hunt. So that's coming out spring. Art by Pepe Larraz. Love him. He's great. Written by Jed McKay. And that's kind of important because he is the writer on 3 different titles, which made it kind of easy to create this crossover. So he introduced some vampire stuff in his Moon Knight run. And along with Moon Knight, he's writing stuff like Doctor Strange and Avengers. So pretty easy to put all of them together into a crossover. He's also rolling in Miles Morales. And of course, you have to do Blade, right? You have to do Blade. So yeah, Fighty McFights a lot. Irish Night Vampire. That would be a great name. That would be a great name. What's this? Getting another crossover with Beast World later this year. I can't remember the last event I got. I opt out of them all. I can't remember the last one that got me excited. I'm trying to think. The last event that I got excited by. I feel like my personal tipping point for events was the first Civil War. Just don't love seeing superheroes fight each other long term. I love the trope of the misunderstanding and then they team up against a common enemy. I like that trope. It works. But I've been burned out on events for a little while. We'll go back to the news though. Events. Oh yeah, you know what? Great call out, Chad. I did sincerely enjoy House of X Powers of 10. It got me excited about X-Men. Didn't love that whole relaunch, but I did love that 12-issue series. That was a good story. That was a really cool look at stuff. I did not like AXE. I did not care for that one. Sorry. The idea of an event is fun, potentially, but I don't like it when it slows down the momentum on an ongoing regular series. I don't like that so much. King in Black was okay. Yeah, it was okay. I'll move on, though. That's all I've got to say about events, I think. Will the 3 Jokers return at DC? Well, this is a rumor, and I'll just put that disclaimer out there right away. And by the way, I did not like the 3 Jokers. I tried it. I read all 3 issues. It didn't interest me very much as a take on the Joker. The idea, the premise, if you don't know, is that instead of there being 1 Joker, there were 3 operating simultaneously. And it sort of accounts for how his personality has been portrayed different ways in different books. Sometimes he's really jokey. Sometimes, he's a prankster more than anything else. That's more of a Silver Age take. And then there's the sort of like regular superhero, like, he's got like a nefarious plan. And then there's like one that's just almost a serial killer with like terrorist type plans. It's sort of interesting, but anyway, wanted to say hi from Tokyo Disney Sea. That's awesome. That is my literal favorite theme park, having visited several. I like this one. I'm seeing double here. 6 Jokers. That's the only way to escalate it. But let's get into it. Like the actual sequel was not 6 Jokers. That's an interesting take, Nick, that it's his only flawed comic story. I have to admit, I personally also read things like Darkest Night and Doomsday Clock, and I did not care for either of those. All of these, one thing that they have in common, it's riffing on Alan Moore ideas from his Green Lantern, his Killing Joke, and his Watchmen stuff. All of it is. Jeff Johns loves riffing on Alan Moore ideas. So, anyway, yeah, just to recap, The 3 Jokers was a book by Jeff Johns and Jason Fabok. It confirmed more than revealed. It confirmed that there were 3 Jokers. However, it really acted as an independent story. They broached the topic of there potentially being 3 Jokers in regular continuity. It was like Batman sat in the Mobius chair. That's a New Gods thing. And he got this extra knowledge. And he learned that there were actually 3 Jokers this whole time, not just 1. That was in regular continuity. Then the 3 Jokers happened, but none of it really impacted anything in the ongoing titles. So it's sort of been like, people have been like, was it an Elseworld story or did this literally happen? Not really clear, to be honest. Not really clear. a sequel was intended. Jeff Johns wanted to do a sequel. It would have been called Batman Universe, I guess, and it would have clarified that stuff. But there were lots of delays, and now I think Fabok is exclusive to Ghost Machine through Image. Obviously, Jeff Johns is working on that as well, but I don't think is exclusive. Uh, you forgot that it happened? Wow. It was not that long ago. I feel like it was like 2 years ago or something. I don't know. So, there was going to be a sequel. There wasn't. Bleeding Cool reported on this rumor that they heard from New York Comic Con. They heard that the concept of 3 Jokers is going to enter main continuity, but it's going to be a new take on the idea, basically. It's not going to be a sequel to 3 Jokers. It's going to go back to like Batman learning that there's 3 Jokers and sort of like reboot the idea in main continuity. That's the rumor. We will see. I don't know that it adds that much to Joker, the idea of there being more than one. I don't know that it adds to him. What mythical creatures do you think are underutilized in comics? Werewolves. But that's why I've written like a werewolf story that I really want to do as a comic. We'll see if that ever happens. There's probably lots also, if you look at any mythology, any religion that's sort of in the past now, there's probably lots of interesting stuff to pull from. 33 Jokers. That's what we can expect within 10 years. 10 years from now, like the final page of Justice League of America issue 281, all of a sudden, like Green Lantern goes on the computer and is like, my God, there's not 27 Jokers. There's 33 Jokers, and all the Justice League is going like, oh, there's 6 more Jokers. I don't know. I don't need it. I don't need it. If DC hasn't decided and they're listening to my opinion, I think one Joker is literally plenty, and you can do Elseworld stories, of course. You just brought back that brand, but the idea of having multiple Jokers, I don't see what it adds in terms of stakes or character development. I don't know. It's beyond me. That's one I don't get. Let's talk about some of the hottest books to come out of New York Comic Con in terms of the exclusives. Anytime you go to a big convention, there are ash cans or variant covers, foil covers, things like that, sketch covers. There were several of those out of New York Comic Con, and they got put up on eBay. So I was going to talk about like 10 of them that had the biggest prices. The biggest selling one was the Arcbound 5 cover set. Now, Arcbound is that new project with Scott Snyder, Frank Thierry. I want to say Greg Smallman is the artist. I forget. And of course, actor. Who's the guy that plays Bane in Venom, guys? Tom Hardy? Yeah. So anyway, one of those went for over 1,500. And there was like others that went for over 800. So that was the most popular. Okay, that was the most popular. What was number 2? An autographed Todd McFarlane Spawn sampler. We're going to talk more about Spawn later. McFarlane has big plans for the Spawn universe, but there was one of those that went for $845. Wow. Army of Jokers begins the Clone Wars has. What else? There was a Berserker pen and ink with some gold on it cover. Only 50 copies, so super, super limited. One of those went for over 700 or went for 700. That's a lot. There was an American Psycho comic, which, was an interesting book and an interesting movie. I don't know what you do with a comic book. Like, it feels like that's a complete story. I don't know where else you go, but that one also only had 50 copies. The one thing I will say is that as far as a variant cover goes, it's pretty clever. It looks like a business card. And that, if you've read the book or seen the movie, business cards are very important to the story, at least in terms of the main characters. They think that business cards are really important. One of those went for over 380 or went for 380. I keep saying over. There was a Department of Truth bootleg variant, and that went for 175. the Duke ash can from the Energon Universe panel. This is the only one that I picked up at New York Comic Con. I got it for free. I guess those are selling for $150. Mine got a little wrinkled, so I doubt it would go for that much. And plus, I just don't care. I don't need to sell this. I don't need to turn my comics over really fast. Well, maybe I need to, but I don't. Bad Idea had a book called Save Now, #1. The one interesting thing about this one, folks, is they made it like a scavenger hunt. So you had to like go back and forth across the convention hall to sort of like pick up something or other in order to get a copy of this. So they put some work into it. So that one I feel should go for something. It wasn't just a giveaway. Yes, all of these are exclusives to New York Comic Con. Anyway, so the Bad Idea book went for $125. That one I almost think is fair. The idea of crisscrossing the convention center to earn the comic, that does involve some work. There was an Invincible #1 foil cover that went for $120. Transformers #1 foil went for $115. And I think the only reason that might be lower is just that there's a good amount of regular copies. People have already picked up the Transformers version, and there's some really cool variant art out there. So there just might not have been demand for another variant there. And finally, for top 10, the Moon Man book by Kid Cudi and Kyle Higgins. The ash can of that went for $100. I should press my Duke ash can, and yeah, if I sold it now, maybe I'd get $50. I guess I'd need $50, but I'll be okay. I'll be okay. Thanks for joining, Ashley. Hello, Had Hayosh, and hello to Vas Pelicanos. So just something that happens at some of the bigger conventions like San Diego and New York Comic Con. Publishers will make some variants, ash cans, or things like that. So some of those are going for some big bucks, you could say. The Rocketeer is coming back. I don't know if I didn't really know that. I don't know the exact rights that Disney has for Rocketeer. I don't think that they own the full comic book rights, but I could be wrong on that. They definitely have like movie and TV rights that they bought from Dave Stevens. The Rocketeer was a comic from about 82, but about an adventure superhero set like in 1930s, pre-World War II. The Disney Plus is looking to reboot it. They hired a writer. So let's get into that. So based on Dave Stevens' comic character, this would be an adventure set in prior to World War II, but also be based a little bit on Disney's movie adaptation. I mean, it's a reboot, but it mixes in some of those ideas. Oh, okay. Clay, I bet you looked it up. So yeah, Disney does own the publishing rights. Okay, so they bought it outright. The Rocketeer is a really fun book, by the way. It's really fun. Let's see. So the writer, this comes from the Wrap, an industry publication. They only publish confirmed stuff. So this is happening. That Disney hired a writer named Eugene Love, who made the movie Sylvie's Love. Don't know if you saw that. It's a movie about a black woman that falls in love with a Jewish man, and then like sort of how the families respond to it. It's a drama. Anyway, Eugene Love has been hired to write the Rocketeer reboot, but that actually might be a good choice when we understand the angle that they're doing for this reboot. And that is, first of all, it's going to star and be produced by David, and I'm going to butcher his last name. I always do. Oyelowo. I think I got that right. British actor. He's been in a bunch of stuff. Good chance you've seen him in something, even if you don't recognize the name. The rumor is that this time it would be about a retired Tuskegee airman who takes up the Rocketeer mantle. I think that that's actually a kind of cool idea that would give us a little something new with Rocketeer. I like that Rocketeer movie. I think that, they made some necessary adjustments in terms of time period and supporting characters. Dave Stevens, for instance, had the main character dating Betty Page. Well, Disney wasn't going to bother getting the rights for that, so they created a new girlfriend. Boy, Jennifer Connelly was gorgeous in that movie. I think The Rocketeer was just fun. It just sort of worked really well. Timothy Dalton was really good in that. Now that I think of it, he was a really hateable, detestable, smarmy villain. He was really good. So we'll see. Did they do that idea on the cartoon? Well, then maybe they'll go in a different direction. I don't know. Yes, that's one of the things he's very famous for. Played MLK in the movie Selma. So we shall see. The Big Henchman. Yeah, that guy had a big face. I don't know how much of that was the actor and how much of that was prosthetic, but yeah. Oh my God, I totally agree. She looked incredible in Top Gun Maverick. She's in her early 50s, but she looks fantastic. She's beautiful, beautiful lady. Am I planning on watching the last Avatar live action series on Netflix? Thanks for the super chat, first of all. Probably not, only because I still have never seen the cartoon. So I've always heard great things. Just haven't really been able to set aside the time and binge that. So I'd rather see the original before I see a live action version, But yeah. Red Letter Media did a review of Rocketeer, and Mike laid out a sequel set in the 70s with a black woman in the role. Mike riffs on stuff and has some pretty damn good ideas. He had a great idea for a Gremlins 3 where Billy Peltzer, the main character from the first two Gremlins, got hired to paint the president's portrait, which is a real thing that happens. And so somehow the Gremlins get loose in Washington, D.C. and are running amok in the Capitol, which that's a really good idea for a Gremlins thing. I like cartoons. I just don't have time for lots of TV. I'm always working. I'm always either doing my job or doing comic tropes. I just have no time. I have no time. You saw how backed up I got by just taking a trip. I feel bad about it. Like, obviously, YouTube did not want me to do that. What other news do we have? Oh, this bummed me out. Wolverine, his first appearance, it got stolen. This guy that you're seeing on screen is the thief, if he looks familiar. I'll give you some more details. This comes from Devil Midnight Comics, a comic book store in Manchester, New Hampshire. And they posted that Wolverine's first appearance got stolen from them. Here's their post. They said this on Facebook. They wrote, "Last night, this guy helped himself to a CGC graded Hulk number 181. If you recognize him or have a lead, contact us or the Manchester Police Department. Please share and help us get the word out." That's all I'm trying to do tonight. If you're in the southern New Hampshire area and all of a sudden you see a Hulk 181 on the market, graded or not, be suspicious. Be suspicious of where that's coming from. I watched the first episode of One Piece. I want to get further ahead on the anime just to be sure that I don't see the live action version totally first. But I really liked what they did with One Piece. It was fun. So, yeah. How did he get behind the counter of their store? I've literally never seen a comic book store where it would be that hard to reach behind a counter, because usually employees have to walk around the floor and do other chores. So I don't know how he did it. They got a image of him on camera. I'm sure he just reached in, grabbed it, and ran. So I don't know. It makes me worry that like people are desperate these days. Maybe they just need to get paid more for the work that they do. And I feel like people don't steal when they don't need to. If it's not too much of an inconvenience to pay us a reasonable fee for something, I feel like it cuts down on theft. And I say that like having grown up in an era where MP3s were new at one point for me. Okay. MP3s were this new technology, and we had these services like LimeWire and Napster and stuff, where all of a sudden you could just share these files, and you could get any music. And that of course turned into like, pirating all sorts of files. But then Apple all of a sudden started selling songs for 99 cents, and the amount of theft like just dropped radically. And it told me that as long as something's priced fair and it's easy enough to get, it'll cut down on a lot of the theft. Obviously, it doesn't eliminate everything, but I think it cuts down on theft. I really do. So I think that people just aren't really. I don't think that the cost of living wages have increased very well over the last 20 or so years. People are earning like the same sort of money for their jobs that they did 20 years ago, but things cost more. That's my opinion. Why couldn't he have stolen a Youngblood #1? Unfortunately, those don't tend to get slabbed. So if you know that it's in a slab, you just know that it's worth something. Yeah. This entertained me so much that I think I am going to pick up Killadelphia, which I have not read yet, but this interested me. I had heard that Killadelphia started as a very grounded sort of detective story that introduced vampires, but apparently it has grown and grown and gotten crazy. Killadelphia, it's a horror book at Image, written by Rodney Barnes, drawn by Jason Sean Alexander. It started as a father and son set of cops investigating murders by vampires. And by the way, the vampires are led by founding father of the United States, John Adams. So that's bonkers. That sounds cool to me. That sounds like a great premise. I'm interested. And I did not know that. It had gone over my head. I didn't know. So in November, issue 31 is going to start sort of a new story arc in this book. It's going to feature some sort of like, war with vampires. It's going to involve a bunch of crossover characters. Barnes got permission to use Spawn, Savage Dragon, and Blackula. Yeah, the movie character Blackula. You say, what, no crossover with Kolchak the Night Stalker? I read up on this, and I guess Rodney Barnes is a fan of Kolchak the Night Stalker, and that if you look at Killadelphia, the artists have put in the background characters like Kolchak and Mulder and Scully from X-Files, just like little hidden cameos. But that sounds awesome to me. That sounds awesome. Yeah, Federalist vampires. It's just bonkers. I love the idea. I don't know why. Oh, I guess that's everything I had to say. But so yeah, that comes out in November. So I personally need to go get some trade paperbacks because that just sounded so different. All over the place, and I like this that it started at sort of a grounded place and I guess went crazy. And I also read that like Rodney Barnes wrote on the TV show. What was it? It was based on the Neil Gaiman book with American Gods. He wrote on American Gods, and he really liked the version that they did on the show of Anansi, the trickster god. And so he's added that character into this story. There's other like gods and demons and angels and stuff. Like I guess it gets really epic and crazy with the supernatural. So pretty wild. Oh, thank you so much, Michael. I saw that you were on the Cartoonist Kayfabe stream just a little while ago. Nice of you to jump in here. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support. I really do. Yeah, I don't think we need Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. You got to start from somewhere that's more original. But yeah. Pretty crazy. I like this painting. Sometimes Alex Ross just does something that speaks to me. I do like his artwork quite a bit. I think he's talented. I loved his Fantastic Four book the beginning of the year. This is a future version of Captain America for the upcoming book Avengers Twilight. Let's break that down. So, Avengers Twilight is going to be a limited series by Chip Zdarsky and artist Daniel Acuna. And it's about the Avengers are gone, but Steve Rogers is still around. So it's in a bit of, I guess, a dystopian future. I don't know how dystopian. I just know that it's dark because they don't have the Avengers. The Avengers will have disbanded by this time, but the older Captain America sets out on sort of like, like one last adventure to both save the world and hopefully save the Avengers legacy, like make people care about them. So That's coming out January 17th. One thing I noted while I'm looking at this, no shield. Maybe he still has his shield, but maybe he doesn't have his shield in the future. Uh, there are some characters that it's really hard to think of them without their accessory. I think it's great when you can give a character an iconic weapon or accessory. Indiana Jones's whip, Thor's hammer, Spider-Man's web shooters. You take those away, and the character just isn't the character. So yeah, it could be interesting. I generally like Chip Zdarsky. I think Daniel Acuna is great. I think Alex Ross is great. It could be fun. Old Man Rogers, exactly. Grover Cleveland was ambidextrous. As a teacher, he could write in Latin and English at the same time. My God, that is a unique brain. Wow. I don't know where Wolverine is. Maybe he's still around. If he doesn't have a shield on the cover, that's probably a plot point. I would imagine, it's just somewhere along the way he either lost it or it got destroyed type thing. Well, I don't know that it necessarily is taking place that far in the future. But who knows? We don't know exactly what the super soldier serum does or exactly what Wolverine's healing powers limits are per se. I mean, he's pretty overpowered most of the time with his healing. I definitely liked Wolverine up through most of the 80s where, even if he just got like beaten to hell, he could definitely die. There was a good storyline during the Australia era of the event of the X-Men, Claremont and Mark Silvestri, where the Reavers uh, just attacked and beat the hell out of Wolverine and crucified him on a cross. And he was just flat out dying because, he'd been beat to hell and he wasn't eating. These days, like one little piece of Wolverine's flesh survives and he's going to regrow from it, which is kind of bonkers to me. But what do I know? Nick Fury and Black Widow don't have the super soldier serum. They have the Infinity formula. At least I think the Black Widow does. Nick Fury definitely does. It was called the Infinity formula. Yeah. Was it X-Men 251? It's mostly like sort of I want to say a green and purple scheme or something like that. So we'll see. Moving on. EJ, if you're still here, look, this is some EJ Sue artwork. EJ is in the chat room tonight. Wolverine is hitting his 50th anniversary, which is wild to think about because I think of Wolverine as like, a young, hot character. 50 years is old. Wolverine is older than me. So he's getting a bunch of variant covers. A bunch of them. That's a fun thing to do. So in 2024, that's the year Wolverine will be 50 years old in terms of publishing history. So Marvel's releasing a bunch of variant covers starting in January. Great. They're calling this series Wolverine, Wolverine, Wolverine. Well done, Marvel. That's good. Wolverine, Wolverine, Wolverine. And they got a wide variety of artists to tackle famous Marvel covers and just insert a Wolverine sheen over the idea. So they're all homages. Some of the ones we've got Jim Rugg from Cartoonist Kayfabe doing a take on Jack Kirby's Captain America number 100. Obviously, this one is by EJ, homaging Javier Saltaraz's famous Ghost Rider number 1. We're talking the 1990s version, Danny Ketch. Some other ones I saw that looked cool. Leno Francis Yu is doing a really cool one based on the idea of Eric Larson's famous Amazing Spider-Man 347. That's the one where Venom is holding Spider-Man's skull. And in this one, like it's Wolverine holding an adamantium skull. It's just a cool idea. I saw that there were covers by Dan Panosian, Ethan Young. Ethan Young is rising really fast. He's so cool. Alex Saviuk. I like seeing like some of the artists that I haven't seen as much lately. I liked Alex Saviuk's cover that I saw. Todd Knock is good. Bunch of others. Yes, you sure made it when you can make it on my show, buddy. But I really like what you did, EJ. It's clearly like your art. I know what it's inspired by, but it isn't like you just traced what was there and put Wolverine in instead. I could see that, it's all different. It's just based on the idea, and I think that that's fun. That it looks like a lot of people went that way. So yeah, that looks like a lot of fun. That's a cool idea. 50 years, 50 years. Wolverine has been popular for a long time. I don't think he's as popular now as he was. Like in the 80s and 90s, Wolverine was like untouchable, man. Wolverine was untouchable. Yes, look at all these people saying nice things. Great cover, great work, good work, fantastic job. It's fun. So since I knew you dropped in, EJ, that's the one I decided to use as my thumbnail. But I hope it does well for you and you continue to get more work and I hope it was fun to do a one-off instead of like, the grind of 22 pages in a month. But yeah. Blue Book was a book that I enjoyed talking about on this show when it was coming out. It's a unique type of a book. Well, the same creators have made I'll call it a prequel. I mean, it takes place before the first one. It's not the same characters. If you don't know, this is by James Tynion and Michael Avon Oeming, and it's serialized on Substack. It's about alleged real alien encounters. The first one was from something like 1961. It was Betty and Barney Hill, ordinary couple from New Hampshire that alleged that they were abducted by aliens. And it seemed like it was traumatic for them. So now we've got a new story, because there are several. This arc is going to be put into print by Dark Horse. It's going to cover aviator Kenneth Arnold's 1947 encounter with UFOs. So this is all stuff that was, documented. Exactly right. Based on Project Blue Book. Blue Book was the name of the government's file on unidentified flying objects and potentially alien stuff. Was any of it true? I wish, in a way. That would make the world pretty interesting. I personally don't believe in it, but I still find the stories really interesting. I was a big fan, for instance, of stuff like X-Files when it was coming out. Movies like Communion and Fire in the Sky. Fire in the Sky freaked me out. I saw that one in the theater, and I remember that night, like, I was terrified to go home. Like, the idea that, like, if an alien wanted to just abduct you at night, there was really nothing you could do. It would just happen. You couldn't resist. It just happened. So scary. I heard this guy, Kelly, has a Blue Book. Kelly? Who's Kelly? I think they were Foo Fighters before his sighting. He was the first one to say they looked like flying saucers. Oh, maybe. I don't know this story. I don't know this story. The 47 one. But it's going to be a 5-issue series. Comes out in February 7th. And one fun thing that they do in each issue of Blue Book is they also have a backup supernatural story by a different set of creators. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know how well it did. Like I didn't look at like reviews and stuff at the time, and I haven't thought to since. I just know that when I saw it, it freaked me out. It just freaked me out. Communion was another one that freaked me out. I read that book. Whitley Strieber or something close to that. Kelly Blue Book car sales. Got it. Takes me a minute. But I guess a bunch of you did see that. Let's see. It's probably true that the Hills experienced something traumatic. Yeah, I agree. Something did happen to them. So, it could be for all I know. But these are all people that, eventually went on record saying that they saw something and they got it all documented. So until we can prove one way or the other, you take it with a grain of salt, but you're like, maybe there's something, and by the way, when we say UFO, I mean, it literally means unidentified flying object. So that's exactly what it is. Like, probably did see something. Was it, I don't know. I think I've told it on this story before. My wife and I together did see a UFO one time. We were driving at night out to Kentucky to artist Tony Moore's wedding, for what it's worth, and we saw a light in the sky that would all of a sudden, like, get closer and further away and make, like, 90-degree turns on a dime, and so it couldn't have been a helicopter, but it also couldn't have been a drone because we were driving down a highway. We would have passed it really fast. We never we can't figure out what we saw. We really can't. Oh, and then there were no clouds in the sky either, so, like, it wasn't something reflecting on clouds, like, we could see the stars, but there was a light that was just so that's a UFO, and I don't know what we saw. I still can't figure it out. I've tried to brainstorm a few times, and I can't figure out what we saw. We saw something. Um, I don't know. It's probably some sort of aircraft, but I don't know what it would have been at night over Kentucky. I don't know. Oh, it was you with the jetpack. Hey, at least I know now. No worries. At least I know. I saw a UFO on vacation in the Catskill Mountains. There was a black triangle rotating through the sky like an arrowhead with no lights on. Yeah, I couldn't explain it. I couldn't explain it. So let's talk about one of the things I put in the thumbnail. Todd McFarlane is going to launch 10 Spawn books, 10 Spawn books. We knew about like 2, maybe 3 or 4 of these, but at New York Comic Con, he released the Spawn sampler or Spawn's Universe sampler, and 10 titles. Wow. I mean, who can blame him? I guess King Spawn and Scorched are selling very well. So yeah, keep expanding it, I guess. So here are the titles that we now know about. There's Spawn Rat City by Erica Schultz and Zay Carlos. Spawn The Dark Ages by Liam Sharp. That one sounds cool. Barbarian Spawn, I'm in. Sam and Twitch Case Files by Todd McFarlane and Szymon Kudranski. I never cared about those characters too much, so I don't know. Deadly Tales of the Gunslinger. This one interests me too. This is Wild West Spawn, written by Jimmy Palmiotti, who has done some good stuff in the Wild West with Jonah Hex, in my opinion. Art by Patrick Reynolds looks really good from what I've seen. Misery. That's also by McFarlane and Kudranski. And this one, I guess, is, if you read Spawn, Al Simmons' wife married his best friend, Terry Fitzgerald. They had a daughter named Cyan. And apparently in the Spawn title, I haven't been keeping up, but I guess she can feel other people's emotions. And now that she's sort of grown up, she's going to go out and try to like understand and harness these abilities. But I think that she goes by the name Misery because she like can feel bad emotions and stuff. Yeah, these are not all ongoing. A bunch of these are one-shots and miniseries. Not clear on what's what yet. There's a book called Focus by McFarlane and Marco Fiella. I'm guessing at the pronunciation there. That one looks like a speedster Spawn. A speedster. Okay. There's a medieval Spawn book. Don't know who's working on that one. Sorry, I couldn't figure it out. A Violator book by Kyle Hotz. That's a good fit. Kyle Hotz did a good book at Marvel back in the day called The Hood. Turned the Hood into a good villain. There's a book called No Home Here by Jonathan Glapion and Daniel Henriquez. And that's about Billy Kincaid, this child killer from like the early days of Spawn. I don't know where they're going with that one. And finally, sort of a gag comic, Spawn Kills Every Spawn by John Layman and Rob Duenas. And that looks just like a funny book poking fun at this whole universe. So yeah, I thought it was about Spawn being held captive by his #1 fan. Oh, Misery. Yeah. Love Kyle Hotz. Nice. I don't think Haunt's coming back anytime soon because that's sort of a Kirkman thing in a big way, and he's pretty busy right now, so I don't think so. That's an interesting question. I don't believe Spawn is. I don't think Sam Keith has ever drawn a Spawn book, but I'm positive he's drawn Spawn at least on covers or a guest appearance in the Max or something. He has to have. He has to have. The medieval Spawn legal issues were resolved. Yeah, I believe McFarlane walked away with the rights to to himself, to the idea of medieval Spawn, but he didn't get things like, Miracle Man or Angela or any of that. Marvel ultimately bought all of that. Manga Spawn could be fun. Hey, Randy. How many Spawn books are too many? I don't know. They haven't figured that out yet. The answer is definitely not like 3 or 4 because it's supporting that just fine. Supporting that just fine. I put that one in. Gunslinger Spawn is Deadly Tales of the Gunslinger. What did I just miss? Oh, Jim Mahfood for Spawn. Yeah. Yeah, Jim went straight from New York Comic-Con to a Comic-Con in Belgium. I'm so jealous of Jim. He gets to travel so much. He gets invited to a bunch of this stuff. We were talking. Jim and I both really love bad horror movies. And it's just been joking, but we kind of want to review some of these obscure weird gems that come from, say, like Italy but filmed in English, things like that. I don't know if either of us would actually have the time for that, but I personally, if you watch this, Jim, I was not kidding when I said I would like to do that with you. That was a good idea. That was a good idea you had. Anyway, we'll see. Is Spawn to Image what Batman is to DC? Maybe. I'd say that Robert Kirkman's Invincible universe was close, and not every book was Invincible, but we had Tech Jacket by E.J. Sue. We had The Astounding Wolfman. We had Brit. We had Guardians of the Globe. We had Adam Eve spinoffs. There was a lot of stuff that took place in that Invincible world, and I kind of wish that it was still going. I wish it was still going. Victorian Spawn. Victorian era would be interesting to explore. Okay, I don't know things, but I like that kind of stuff, so I will look that up. Thank you. B movies can be so entertaining. They can be a mess, but sometimes they're good. Anyway, good luck, Todd. I don't underestimate Todd at this point. Todd has been a successful businessman and artist and writer and company runner for a long time now. A long time. McFarlane Toys and Spawn have done well for a very long time. I think he's I just feel like business-wise, I would invest in Todd McFarlane. He doesn't make a lot of missteps. So he might be 100% right that there's a big audience for this. War of 1812 Spawn. Yep. That would be good. That would be good. Boer War Spawn. What was the war between the Falkland Islands War. We'll have Falkland Islands War Spawn. This was also something that got talked about a lot on social media this week. Maybe not for just what it is, but for who's working on it. So Titan, they're the publisher that has the rights to stuff like Doctor Who, and they do the new Conan book. So they tend to do licensed properties. They're going to do a book based on Rebel Moon. If you've forgotten or anything, that's the upcoming sci-fi movie that's meant to start a series. It's going to be Zack Snyder's sort of own personal Star Wars. Okay, so this is a big project for Zack Snyder. Rebel Moon is coming out on Netflix in December, the 1st, as long as it does well, I guess. Maybe they filmed a bunch at once. I don't know, but that movie comes out December. So this week we found out that he has collaborated with Eisner-nominated writer Mags Visaggio, as well as artist Clark Bint, to write a prequel comic. Mags is really the one writing, but I guess it comes story by Zack Snyder. Apparently, they had lots of meetings together to understand this world and everything. This comes out in January. It's called Rebel Moon: House of the Blood Axe. What? I want to offer promotion for my channel? No, I'm good. Thanks anyway. No, thank you. Moving on. Rebel Moon: House of the Blood Axe takes place 5 years before the events of Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, and will tell us about the beginning of the main rebellion that's going on in it. So, cool. All right. Oh, hello, Scotland. Nice to have you here. Why was this big news? Well, because Zack Snyder has grown a little bit of a right-wing following. That's just something that's happened over the years. It's not like something I think he intentionally set out to do, but it did happen to a degree. And obviously, Mags is a prominent trans writer. So a lot of the sort of more Comicsgate people, or people that have closely aligned with that, were going crazy on Twitter, going like, "What are you doing, Zach?" They were mad. And it's like, we haven't even seen the movie yet. And we haven't even read the comic yet. We don't know if either of them is going to be good or bad, but people were so mad. And Mags was having fun with it. She retweeted a ton of funny stuff. So, but I don't know if that's a fair reputation for Snyder to have earned. I've pointed out that I think he has some Randian, as in Ayn Rand, ideas in his Superman and Justice League movies, but he looks like a really friendly, nice guy that like nobody's ever said that he's a jerk on set or anything. There's fun video of him filming Man of Steel and like riding a skateboard around on the Kryptonian ship. I think he seems like a creative guy. I don't always love his original stories. Like, what was that one movie he made with like the girls in the mental hospital and they were all like having sci-fi adventures in their minds? I don't know. But I like him as a director. I think he's capable of like, a clear story, getting good performances and good visuals. I just don't always love his writing. But anyway, yeah, Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch was god awful. God awful. Sorry. Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you. Sucker Punch. Everybody remembered Sucker Punch. But I don't dislike Zack Snyder as a person or anything like that. I really don't. I didn't love his take on Justice League stuff either. Although I will say that his director's cut of Justice League was very much superior to the theatrically released one. It did justice to a bunch of the characters. So yeah. Anyway, if you want to see some entertaining squabbling online, or at least like people like losing their minds over something that got announced, just look up the news on a place like Twitter, especially on Rebel Moon. Some people were mad about it. Who cares? Spider-Man 2 came out this week. I have played a little of it, and it is very fun. Very fun. Looks good, plays good. It wasn't broken, so they continue to make it like the first one in the Miles Morales spinoff. But it sold well too, apparently. Now, keep in mind, Sony only announces stuff like sales when they want to brag about something. Otherwise, you never hear about it. So it's hard to compare everything. But Marvel's Spider-Man 2, they announced, sold over 2.5 million copies in the 24-hour period when it became available on October 20th, their launch day. 2.5 million copies. Huge number. Humongous number for one day. That is a record. Last year, this is a piece of comparison I could find. Sony had announced God of War Ragnarok sold 5.1 million copies within its first week. So that was 7 days. So let's see, like, is Spider-Man going to continue selling well for several days, or is it going to have a massive drop off after 24 hours? I don't know. Uh, but it's a good game. I totally understand why it's selling well. And for what it's worth, it's not just my opinion. I went to Metacritic, which is kind of like Rotten Tomatoes, gathering together everybody's reviews. They've categorized it as having universal acclaim because it averages a 9 out of 10 by reviewers and a 9.2 out of 10 by the users. Those are really good numbers if you at least compare them to other things. So, yeah, really interesting. How can we get 20% of those people's into comic shops? Hey, I'd settle for 5%, but yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting to see if somebody plays these games and becomes interested in learning more about the stories. That said, this is its own continuity. It does not directly adapt storylines from the comics. It adapts the characters and some of the origins, but it does not adapt anything literally. And they've got a couple new characters, and they've killed off characters, and they've remixed characters, sort of like merged them together and stuff like that. So there are some changes. I like it as a comics reader because I am getting like sort of a news story, and I don't know exactly where it's going to go. But I could understand being frustrated if you wanted more of this and you went to the comics and it wasn't the exact same. That is one thing I will say for the manga/anime industry. Everything matches. Now, that might also be a little boring, but I can see the appeal to a degree. Wow, thank you for the super chat, Hulkzilla. I've got some Hulk stuff coming up tonight, so thank you very much. Oh, we all hope Paul appears. Hey, who knows? Maybe this is the original universe that he's from. He's from a different universe than 616. Speaking of Rebel Moon, how many shirtless dudes do you think there will be, being that it's Zack Snyder? Does he put a lot of shirtless dudes in his... I mean, he did 300. Yeah. I'll say 3. The problem with games like this, half the time the studio funds the game more than the license holder. I say this from a friend who worked on Marvel Heroes, and I gave him all my Venom comics. Yeah, I guess I see that being potentially an issue. We'll see. I like it so far. I haven't even gotten halfway, folks, so I can't give a super big opinion. It's very similar to the original, slightly improved graphics, definitely a new story, bigger world to explore. You can go beyond Manhattan into like, Brooklyn and stuff, so that's kind of cool. I've only got 2 more pieces of news. This is the second to last, and then we'll do only a few comic reviews real quick, and then I'm going to draw. So, Viz obviously imports a lot of big manga to the States. They're a huge comic book publisher. They employ a lot of creative talent here in the US. Editors, translators, letterers, touch-up artists. Well, they're doing something new. They have now opened submissions for people here in the US to make manga potentially. Let's go over that. So they've opened a portal to accept submissions for a manga one-shot. So just like, like a one and done, although I guess if it's really good, maybe it could go further. There's the simple URL, viz.com/submissions. And if you're in the US and you've wanted to do manga, you have a story to tell, you can submit it and Viz might pick it up. So on top of that, we've got Hisashi Sasaki. He is a former editor-in-chief at Shueisha's Weekly Shonen Jump. Big deal to get that high up. And he's going to work with and guide creators whose submissions are selected. That's how they do it in Japan. Like, the editor sits down and hardcore works with the manga creator. They get, a manuscript to approve, sort of like basically sketches. They get the story each week and like little sketches of storyboards to approve. And so they're really hands-on. I don't know if you've ever wanted to break into manga or somebody that wants to. can look at this. Can someone live in the US on a manga artist's salary? Well, I think it all depends on how popular it is, to be honest. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't see any pay listed. The only other thing I saw was that selected writers, they're going to get a digital one shot, and they'll have opportunities at that point, depending on how much, Viz likes it, what the response is like. Viz might license that for maybe either further stories, maybe for products, maybe for an anime, things like that. And that's where you definitely could make some money. I don't really feel like I've got anything that would classify perfectly as a manga idea. So no, I wasn't planning on applying. But I do think it sounds like, a route to getting your foot in the industry. So yeah. Absolutely, it would be a great credit. If you could get something like that, you're going to get other work. That's the nice thing. Typically, with manga in Japan, the rights are split almost 50-50 between the creator and the publisher. But the nice thing is that the publisher has direct ties to turn it into anime, video games, toys, and other products. And then you get like a huge cut of that stuff. Um, and with 50-50, you at least can like say whether something moves forward or not. So there's enough financial incentive to make it worthwhile, but it isn't like something that you usually can take somewhere else. But there are different types of deals. There are different types of deals. I'm just talking about like, what you might see from somebody breaking in at like, Weekly Shonen Jump. But if you asked me now, I bet you somebody like Ichiro Oda on One Piece, he probably does at this point. He's probably renegotiated and owns more than 50%, if I had to guess, but I don't know. I don't know. Hey, look at that. Craig. Craig has been a supporter of my Comic Tropes channel since very early on. Really talented artist, both tattoos and drawing. Really nice guy. Thank you so much for jumping in, and thank you for the super chat. That's really nice. I did have a good trip. Thank you so much. Thank you, Craig. Really appreciate it. Read the submission guidelines, Wayne. They're probably looking for somebody that can do both. To be honest, they're probably looking for like a full team. They're probably looking for a full team, but I don't know. It says writers on the slide because that's what they said in their press release, but I think that they might mean creators, to be honest. They might. Last piece of news, and then I'm going to do a couple quick reviews and some drawing. This ties in with who did I just talk about this week on Comic Tropes? Osamu Tezuka, I should say. And a bunch of his art is now currently on exhibition in Japan. Yeah. I know some people that watch are from Japan, so maybe you didn't know. But his medical manga, Blackjack, great series. It has original art. It has his manuscripts, the things that the editors would approve that we were just talking about. Has notes about like the story and stuff like that. It's on display at Mori Tower in Roppongi Hills. That's part of Tokyo. Now, I actually have been in that tower. It's humongous, by the way, a humongous building, gigantic, really. I got to go there. I think it was 2018. Might have been 2019. I can't remember now, but YouTube used to have studios up there. And if you were a big enough channel, you could reserve their studios and you could use any equipment that they had. And they had every piece of equipment you could imagine. And I've recorded my Akira episode there. If you've ever watched that and you've seen like me standing in front of Tokyo Tower and Tokyo in the background, that's in Mori Tower. It's a great building. A lot of offices, but it's so big. It's also got a lot of shops, like, sort of a mall area. And so I can totally understand how they'd have a display area for this. You need to buy tickets for this, but you can find that by just looking up this, what do you call it? This exhibition. It's the 50th anniversary of Blackjack. Blackjack is an unlicensed surgeon, at least initially, and he travels the world solving medical mysteries. It's really good manga if you haven't read it. It ran for 243 stories. That's a lot. That's a lot of stories. I think that just sounds like fun. And it's, oh, I didn't put it there, but it goes through the beginning of November. I forget the exact final day. So if you're in the area, you might want to go there. I looked at some original Osamu Tezuka art at his museum during my last visit, and I included a lot of those images and video in the latest episode. So hopefully you'll take a look at that. That was all the news. Hi. So let me add a camera, and we're going to talk about some comics that came out this week. Just a few. Just a few. I decided I didn't want to look at absolutely everything. But I'm going to turn on a light here. And I'm going to add an extra camera. Bear with me as I adjust the lens a little bit. That's too much. Hold on. Move a few things a little bit. And I'll do it like that. Maybe that's too zoomed in, actually. What happens if I do this? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Nice. No, good question, EJ. It is not a permanent exhibition. It is through the beginning of November. It's basically like, I think, about a 1-month exhibit. But nice opportunity to see a lot of original art by Tezuka. I've been enjoying the Incredible Hulk book that is written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, because the premise is there's just this elder god that controls monsters and is just going after Hulk. So every issue has him going after battling monsters. In this one, he battles a monster in the swamp that Man-Thing tells him about. Guest artist is Travel Foreman, who is an incredible artist. I do think that he probably, as a guest artist, didn't have a lot of time because he typically does a little bit more detail than this, but there are some good elements of this. For instance, the monsters. Hold on, let me find. Yeah, like that's a pretty good one. Look at that swamp monster attacking Hulk and Man-Thing. That's a good monster. And there's some good, like, messy stuff that's going on in this. Yeah, Hulk absolutely decimates it, as he should. Hulk is the strongest there is. I like him wiping the goop off his face. That's a good personal touch. Also, this features a really disgusting transformation of Hulk turning into Banner. Look at that. Okay, so he starts getting littler, but then look at his eyes bug out and his proportions get all wonky. Oh, that's gross. But I like that body horror stuff. They've been doing that in Hulk since Immortal Hulk, giving him some really gross transformations. I think that's pretty cool. So it's good. I do recommend this book. We get to see Betty Banner, who these days is the Harpy. She's a gamma monster too. So some good stuff. It's fun. I like this one even a little bit more as far as an individual issue. Just starting fresh with an issue 1, but it's still She-Hulk by Rainbow Rowell. Same premise, which is basically that She-Hulk is balancing work, dating, and being a superhero. Work being like, a lawyer. I think that the artist that they've got right now, is it Andres Genele? Very good fit. Very good fit. I like that She-Hulk is a little taller than her boyfriend, Jack of Hearts. It's made me care about Jack of Hearts. Now, the only thing I don't love about this is She-Hulk is like finally in a good relationship with somebody that treats her well and that she cares about and everything. It's really it's nice. And now she's feeling like that he's not acting like needy or clingy, but she's like worried that maybe he wants too much time and she doesn't have that much time to give. And I'm sort of like, you're sabotaging your own relationship. Sales. Why restart it? Rename it? sales. Issue 1s still sell well. It's a way to goose the numbers. It's a way to goose the numbers is all. No, Jen doesn't deal with horrible transformations. It's also got some funny stuff. For instance, in this one, she's working with 2 deviants. If you watch the Eternals movie, the Eternals have deviants. Typically, unlike in the movies, deviants are intelligent and can talk and stuff. They usually look monstrous, a little bit like Carcass. But there's 2 deviants that the deviants themselves didn't like. They didn't like Carcass because he was too ugly for them, and they didn't like Ransack because he was too beautiful. She-Hulk has them living together as roommates, and they're a pretty funny duo. They're having issues with their landlord and stuff. So that's a legal issue that She-Hulk's working on. She's balancing that. She's balancing the dating life, and she's balancing Punch Club, which is basically her and a bunch of superpowered people like Thing and Titania. They just like to duke it out every once in a while and let off some steam. It's a really fun book. It's charming. It's more of a romance book, but it still has action and drama. I like it. I don't know. It works for me. I wish they made the deviants in the movie look like they do in the comics. I agree. You know, if they do a sequel, that's what they should do. Although the for what it's worth, the very end of the Eternals movie absolutely implied that Thanos was a deviant just from, the planet Titan. And obviously he could, talk and look more like a normal sort of monster. Punch Club is a good idea. Punch Club is fun. So I like that. So, and then I picked this up. How could I not? You guys know I love Godzilla. I also like King Kong a lot. I love big monsters. Love it. So the idea of this, just on its face, Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, that sounds fun. That sounds fun. I'm kind of disappointed in this book. Primarily over the art, but I have very specific critiques about the whole thing. Because it's not all bad. It's more just disappointing because it didn't reach what I was hoping for. Written by Brian Buccellato, who's done some good stuff in the Massiverse. Good writer. Art by who's this guy? Sorry, it's so hard to keep up with artist names these days. There's so many out there now. Is it on the back here? Christian. I don't know if that's pronounced Duce or Deuce. I don't know. Sorry. We'll say Duce. Here's something that's weird. Okay. For unknown reasons, this is not set in regular continuity because it's specifically got Clark Kent about to propose to Lois Lane, which is all fine in a way, except I don't understand what it has to do with the idea of the Justice League versus big monsters. Like, I don't understand either thematically or, on a character arc. I don't understand why we would sort of go back to that idea. But yeah, so it starts off cool enough, though. We've got Clark and Lois in Metropolis, and Godzilla emerges. And then we sort of flash back, and there's a bunch of pages about just sort of like normal stuff, Superman defeating Titano. And by the way, that happens off panel, basically. Like, how disappointing is that? Like, okay, Superman's flying in to fight a kryptonite vision gorilla, giant gorilla, right? That's cool. Next page, he's already beaten him. That's a little disappointing. Like, I would like to see a little action in my comic. And then there's I think that this Christian Duce guy draws good individual images and doesn't have great storytelling. That I'm going to explain, okay? First of all, what is going on in this specific panel? Can I focus on it? Let's see. Is it me, or does this Wonder Woman look like a little girl or a little person or a doll? Like, doesn't it just sort of it's easier to tell in person. It's just something about these dimensions. And proportions are really important in a book where you've got humans fighting gigantic monsters. There's a lot of shots that are just sort of like slightly distant or medium size at best. So I don't feel like I've got a lot of look at characters' emotions. Okay, there's an ad. We cut to the Legion of Doom. The Legion of Doom is cool. They've got whatever plan going on. And it involves breaking into Superman's Fortress of Solitude. Okay, so we see this ship going to the Fortress of Solitude, and then they're all like really tiny here, maybe like a little bigger here. In this panel, like really tiny here, right? Like really tiny, all these villains. And it says, "Step aside, let my bots through." I'm like, okay, I think that's Lex Luthor saying it. But then the next panel seems to have Giganta and Gorilla Grodd pulling. So like, what bots is he talking about? I literally can't tell. If these tiny characters here are supposed to be bots, that's not very clear. But that's not the worst of it, okay? That's not the worst of it. This is the one that really confuses me. Okay. We get to a point where the Justice League is battling the Legion of Doom. Cool. Toyman runs away and he tosses one of his toys. And I'm thinking that that's a bomb because I know Toyman. I see it bounce off of like this object in the foreground and it explodes. Oh, okay, like whatever. I go, okay, he just tossed it to the side. It exploded. It didn't really hurt anyone. But then a couple pages later, listen to this. He's defending himself and he says, "How was I supposed to know that nth metal could deflect my bomb?" So nth metal is what Hawkman and Hawkwoman have in their suits. So then I went back and I was like, oh, this is supposed to be Hawkgirl knocking this doll away. But it doesn't really read like that, does it? I mean, we've got her standing here. We've got him throwing this. And then it's bouncing off this object in the foreground. Apparently that was her mace. I couldn't tell that. I couldn't tell that at all. So that's what I mean by like some confusing storytelling. Like, let my bots do the work. What bots? Nth metal resists my bomb. What? It looked like you just missed and like hit this object in the fortress. Because look at the other objects we see in the Fortress of Solitude. We see like, axes and crystals and stuff. I thought this was just an object in the Fortress of Solitude. Does that make sense, like what I'm complaining about? I don't feel good about this, but here's one last thing that I want to mention. First of all, as you can see, we're almost at the end of the issue, and they have not actually fought Godzilla and King Kong. I'd like to see that, but we don't get that in issue 1. Okay, so here's what we do. On this page, Superman is reacting to seeing something that stuns him. By the way, spoiler, it's Godzilla, okay? So he looks absolutely stunned, like worried, as he should be. Godzilla is a huge threat, okay? Godzilla is a big threat. So then we get this page. He's like, it's a job for Superman. Look how happy he looks. How casual. And then he's flying to fight Godzilla. And Godzilla looks appropriately threatening, humongous. But like, what kind of storytelling is that to go from like, oh my God, hey, guess I'll go fight Godzilla. Do you understand? Like, so I feel bad. I don't like these are good drawings in and of themselves, right? That's a good drawing. That's better than what I can do. But the storytelling, the panel to panel and stuff, like it's just off. The decisions on when to pull in close and when to be further away aren't there for me. So I was kind of disappointed in the first issue, but the premise alone is enough to get me to come back. Okay. Plus, it looks like it's going to finally be Superman punching Godzilla. I want to see that. So I will come back, but I was a little disappointed with the pacing and some of the decisions. Clark looks so happy to get out of that proposal to Lois. Yeah, he should look like really serious and determined, if not scared at this point, in my opinion. He should be at the least annoyed that his dinner with Lois has been interrupted. But instead he's like, well, off to have some fun beating up a monster. That's a weird decision to make him so like sort of happy and carefree after looking scared the panel before. I got some other stuff this week, and I got some other comics that I didn't cover, but this one deserves a bigger deep dive. Monica by Daniel Clowes came out, and this is just a huge book that sort of covers all sorts of comic book genres. In a lot of ways, it's a meta commentary on comics themselves. It's got horror and romance and sci-fi. I still need to finish it, though. I still need to finish it. But Daniel Clowes is a really important creator, I think, in comics. And so I was pretty excited to get that this week. And I didn't even open this yet, but I thought I'd just quickly flip through the weekly Shonen Jump that I'd picked up in the last day or two of being in Japan. And then I'll draw. I'll draw in just a sec, because I think that'll be fun. And I'll just take your questions. So let's see what's popular in Shonen Jump right now, if we can even make sense of it. We've got, I guess, maybe this is like a convention or something, because they've got times beside people. So there's probably some sort of a signing or something. I don't know. We've got an ad for One Piece stuff. Got a bunch of color page ads. We've got, you always vote as a reader, like for your top 3 favorite series of the week. That's how they decide what continues and what gets canceled. So this is a new manga about ice skating. That's a decent idea. We'd never have something like that here, would we? An ice skating manga? What else do we have? It's a big first story. But that makes sense. They usually like do several pages ahead of time. This is Sakamoto Days. I can tell that. This is Sakamoto Days. That's about a retired like hitman. He's gained a lot of weight, but he's still a badass. But he works as a clerk these days. The art on that is good. We've got a new chapter of One Piece in here. Look at how many pages that is to produce on a weekly basis. That's a lot. That's a lot. Which one's this? This is I don't know what series this is. I'm sorry. And I can't read fast enough. It would take me a while to read. I was just flipping through and seeing what we have. This is one of their newer series. Something like Kagurabachi, Samurai Hero. It's pretty popular, but there's not a lot of long-running manga right now in Shonen Jump. You know, One Piece is definitely there. Sakamoto Days has been going for a little while, but not a lot else. You know what? My Hero Academia is in this, isn't it? My Hero Academia. I don't know. Anything catch you guys' eye? Beowulf says Sakamoto Days is really good. Open an episode with you ice skating. Yeah. One thing I'm surprised by is I feel like when I used to flip through these when I was younger, like before they came to America, but I went in the 90s, I saw a lot more different types of art styles. And I feel like a lot of this looks pretty similar. It's not as detailed as it used to be. And I understand the grind and everything. I do. It's just funny. Like some of my favorite manga are pretty detailed things, you know, whether it's, you know, older like Fist of the North Star or even like kind of modern. I would say that, you know, My Hero Academia is a fairly detailed book. Any Boruto, asks Daryl. Boruto. I don't know. Is that Boruto? I can't tell. If I could read faster, but it takes me a long time to read. Here's one cool thing about learning to read Japanese. If you pick up a manga, Japanese uses a lot of kanji. Kanji's not easy to learn because there's so many symbols. But here's what they do. I can't quite get in, but this is a kanji symbol. And to the right, they put out the hiragana symbols beside it in really tiny lettering. So you can actually like read it in hiragana and learn what kanji symbols are. So that's kind of cool. Some sort of soccer manga, samurai manga. like a period piece. That actually looks kind of cool. That looks, yeah, it's not my favorite, but I like it. This looks like old-fashioned style. Look at this. That reminds me of stuff like Kiniku Man. What's the last one here? I have no idea. Anyway, I just thought I'd flip through it real quick. Tell you what, let's just draw. Let's draw. So, a friend of mine loves Starscream, and I was going to draw Starscream the other week. So he said, hey, if you're going to draw Starscream, would you be willing to like draw it on, you know, I bought a Transformers blank cover, and I was like, would you really, like, I'm like, that's a big decision. I was like, you know, I might make a mistake or mess up. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm a pro. And he's like, yeah, you know, like, go for it. I was like, okay. So I've never drawn on these, you know, covers before. So I sketched this out ahead of time so that I'm less likely to make a mistake. But let's see how it goes. I'm going to get some technical pens to start, since this is a robot. A robity robot. Arts and crafts time, exactly. And I decided to do this based on some of, like, because I really don't want to make a mistake on this. So I used reference, folks. Like, this is like based on some of the Transformer, I don't know if it's toys or statues, but like it's based on that stuff so that I'm less likely to make a mistake. And I'll just try to still be pretty quick with my lines so that there's a little energy. It's not too stiff and boring. We'll see how it goes, but I'm definitely nervous. I'm feeling it. Protective page paper behind? No, but that's a good idea. What do I have here? Here's a blank piece of paper that I'll just insert behind. Thanks. Appreciate it. I don't know how guys like Daniel Warren Johnson can do Transformers regularly. It just seems like so. Or EJ, you've drawn Transformers. It just seems so stressful to me to draw them because they don't rely on natural anatomy. There's nothing like recognizably human about their dimensions. Just taking a look every once in a while at the chat to see if there's anything interesting I should address. Following in the footsteps of Greg, of the Land of Greg. Well, sort of. I want to get it. Yeah. I don't think it's bad to use reference, just to be clear. I just think that if you only use reference, your work gets stiff. And I tried in my episode about Greg Land to sort of show that I felt that his earlier work, before he did as much photo reference stuff, had a little more energy to it all. That was the main part of my argument. Not that using reference is ever bad, but that if you start relying on it too much, you lose energy. You get locked into things that like might technically be correct, but don't look right. Oh yeah, lots of artists use reference. It's fine. Maybe. We will see how I do. But I've always liked the character of Starscream. I think that the TV show lost a lot when it didn't have him. He was just so interesting to have that conniving guy. Like, but it's cool to see somebody with ambition. Even though he was a bad guy, it was cool to see somebody with so much ambition. Oh, wow. Hold on. A super chat. Are super robots and mecha that merge and transform no longer in fashion in Japan? Get a robot grandizer. Also, do you know where's the best place to order English translation of manga online? That's an interesting set of questions. First of all that vintage stuff, they still have tons of toys and games and stuff based on it. So I think it's still plenty popular. I really do. Yeah, robots and mech is still definitely popular. Like, there's so much Gundam stuff, for instance. Gundam is incredibly popular as an example. Best place to order English translations. I mean, if it's been translated into English, you're going to be able to find it at Amazon and Barnes and Noble. You just are. The only other place I can recommend is if you have a Kinokuniya near you. That's a Japanese bookstore chain. Kinokuniya can sometimes have a few more options. Let's see. Robots take twice the time to draw. I have to imagine that's accurate. All right, Owen, thanks for coming in. Yeah, a bunch of you mentioned how Starscream's voice was like a huge part of the appeal, and I totally agree. Chris Latta nailed it. Someday, I will be leader of the Decepticons. He was great. He was really, really good. I've never felt like I'm a great technical artist in terms of like really straight lines and perfect ellipses and ovals. So like this is definitely pushing me out of any comfort zone that I feel that I have. But that's kind of fun in its own way, I will admit. Favorite comic book cover? Boy, asking the easy questions, huh? Favorite comic cover? Trying to think of what stands out. You know, the first stuff that caught my eye, if I'm being honest, when I was younger, was almost all by Mike Zeck. From Secret Wars, you know, the first Spider-Man black costume shot that Zeck did in Secret Wars, to his G.I. Joe covers like Snake Eyes and Scarlet walking through a minefield at night, really low angle, to his stuff on Kraven's Last Hunt. Those are some iconic covers to that 6-issue storyline. So it will be something by Mike Zeck, probably. And if I had to choose just one, it would probably be the cover from Kraven's Last Hunt of Kraven hunting at night in his mansion and Spider-Man's in the corner of the ceiling behind him. Transformers is definitely still popular in Japan. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All of my childhood voice actors were from Transformers and G.I. Joe. They were great. John Byrne's black suit Spidey cover holds up. Oh yeah, the one like with like the white and black, like it's like looking down from high up in the skyscrapers and Spider-Man's swinging right in the middle. Yeah, that is good. That is good. I agree. There's certainly a lot of great covers. I also think, by the way, that Tony Moore did a lot of great covers on Walking Dead that I don't think are necessarily remembered as well as they should be. I think that he did a lot of really amazing covers. There's one that's shows Rick Grimes from behind, and it's a reflection on a zombie's eyeball, and you can tell because there's a fly walking on it. There's just so many levels of storytelling there. It's great, really, really good. Yeah, Tony's a talent. Tony the Talented Tiger. Oh yeah, Captain America Annual #8. That's the one where he's fighting Wolverine, right? That's so good. Batman Hush. Got it. Do an episode of my favorite covers? Maybe. The eyeball close-up is iconic, yeah. Dave McKean Sandman is great. Absolutely. I picked it up, Void Coupon. I picked up World's Finest. I'm behind from I still have some books to catch up from when I was on my trip. So I've got sort of a stack, and that's why I didn't review it this week. I am interested in seeing The World of Kingdom Come revisited by Mark Waid. So I am interested in checking that one out. But I have not had time yet. Great writing or great artwork? You know what? Comics is a visual medium. So I do think that great artwork probably carries a notch more weight. It does. Because great artwork is still at least interesting to look at. But a bad artwork, even if it's a great writing, you can't get through it, if that makes sense. Oh, Lou Fine and Jack Kirby, absolutely. Oh yeah, Joe Chen's covers were great. I haven't seen her lately. I wonder what she's doing. Yeah, she's great. She's great. The embossed die-cut Spider-Man Tombstone cover where Aunt May died and you couldn't tell what the book was. I know exactly the one you're talking about. It just looks like a gray slab of nothing. It's just nothing. So yeah, that one, eh. What books are you guys enjoying right now? What are your favorite comics that are coming out? Like what might I be missing that I should have been picking up but I haven't, you know? Anything like that? Always looking for recommendations essentially. Daredevil, Kaya, spine-tingling Spider-Man, 7 Years in Darkness, the latest Usagi Yojimbo. Got it. These are good recommendations. Doom Patrol trades. Got it. Knights is a new book. A world where vampires and ghosts are real. They're real. EC Comics reprints. Good. Nice. The Forged is pretty cool. Nightwing. Got it. Right on. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Oh yeah, I've seen the original Halloween in the theater too. It's good. The kaiju. I do like Miracle Man. I like that. I like that a lot. Oh man, Wheezy's X Factor was so good. Uncanny Spider-Man. That's the one with like sort of Nightcrawler in it, or like a Nightcrawler clone or something. The current Daredevil. Got it. Uh, aren't most microphones technically phallic? I'm sorry that this very common Yeti microphone is disturbing you, but it's just a regular old microphone. This is the most nervous I think we've seen Chris when he's. I don't want to mess somebody else's up. Usually I'm just drawing for myself. I don't want to screw this up. You should have seen me when I was just doing like the little remarks on the Vampirella stuff that I did. I was so nervous drawing those little remarks. I haven't picked it up yet. I'd love to. I really want to. Great question, Craig. Yeah, if you guys don't know, Bill Watterson came back. It's sort of a comic. It's sort of a book. It's in the middle. He collaborated with someone, and I'm forgetting the name of the other creator right now. But Bill Watterson, Calvin and Hobbes, did come back with a cool, weird book. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Infotron. That's me. I haven't, I've only read a little bit of Monica so far. I've only read a little. It won't be a Greg Land piece if we don't get to see Starscream's O face. I'm drawing him like a little bit more like sort of cheerful. Like, I can't get it to focus that great. Yeah. If I seem too quiet, it's just because I'm trying to concentrate on getting a detail right. That's just how I am basically when I draw. So uh, I like drawing though. I'm not great at it, but I love doing it. I just love it. I think my biggest problem is probably confidence. Somebody was saying like I'm nervous doing this, and that's a little true. I don't want to make a mistake, and I think that the really good artists are more willing to make mistakes and just move at a good pace. I think I'm too slow for ever doing a monthly comic. I would love to be able to, but I can't get myself to the point where I'm just comfortable making the mistakes that I make. I don't know how to get over that. Yeah, I love drawing. I love drawing. I don't know about that, but that's really kind of you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying. If I go too slow tonight, I may just sort of pick this up down the road. But I'm going to try for now to do as much as I can. I can hear my cats meowing upstairs. They're hungry for dinner, but I think Chrissy's taking care of them. They're too clever for their own good. When they're hungry, they know that if they run to wherever I am and either say bite a comic or try to push over one of my belongings, like whether it's a mug or a Lego or whatever it is, like off the table, that I'll jump right up and feed them. Like because I don't want it to be destroyed. They're really smart. They know exactly what they're doing. They crack me up. I would love to have a small dog. I think that would be nice. That would be nice. Whenever I watch Sienkiewicz draw a paint experiment, I'm completely terrified watching him ruin his art, which then looks even better. I've seen that. I know exactly what you're talking about. He'll have something that looks great, and then all of a sudden he'll cover a bunch of it up with maybe like, some paint or some whiteout or some ink, and then he draws over it and it looks better. He's so comfortable and confident. What was it like moving out of your parents' house for the first time? It was great. And I had a good relationship, and I think I still do with my parents. But, I first moved out with them just going to college. So I was moving from one pretty comfortable environment to another in terms of like it had a routine. So we'll see. It was good. And then, when I got my first apartment, I had a roommate and I liked living in the city. So I've kind of always liked it. Oh, that's a good question. So I had a sponsor on the Osamu Tezuka episode. And I took it because I had seen that a bunch of my coworkers were enjoying Factor. So I was like, well, maybe this is worth trying. I might give this a shot. I say no to most sponsors. I get a lot of offers. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that is a fact. I get a lot of offers. And I turn almost all of them down. Because I'm just not 100% sure. The money would be nice, but I'm not sure. But I said yes to this, and they sent me like some boxes so that I could, actually eat them ahead of time and be sure that I was ready to use them as a sponsor. And I did like them. What Factor does is, pre-made meals that you just heat up, and they're healthy and they're well balanced. What was my favorite? I ended up really liking a garlic encrusted pork chop. It was really tasty. None of it felt dry or tough. It felt like good quality stuff. So I did one for Raid Shadow Legends early on, and it's a free game. I mean, yeah, you can pay to upgrade, but I did it because I was like, it's harmless. But I played it for a while and I didn't love it, so I didn't say yes to them again. There's a lot of weird ones. A lot of them honestly do come from like China and stuff. A lot of them are like, saying things like, will you just do a review of our furniture or something? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to review your furniture. That's not like what I do. Like, why are you even wasting either of our times with that? So a lot of them I say no to. A lot of them. Most of them. But every once in a while, I do take one if I think it's a decent product. And for what it's worth, I do think Factor was decent. So if you're considering it, check out that Osamu Tezuka episode. In the description. There is a code to get 50% off your first package of meals. And you know what? Chrissy and I have decided to do it. We've ordered a ton of them. Like legit, we decided to get a bunch because we liked it. We both liked it. So that was nice. That was nice to like realize that I actually liked the thing that I was like gonna advertise. It made me nervous. I've said no to things that like in a way I almost regret. I wish I had said yes to them. Amazon asked me to talk about The Boys animated cartoon thing that they had. And at first I thought they were talking just an ad, so I said yes. And then they said no, they wanted me to do an actual episode about it. And I said, oh no, I'm not going to do like, a paid review. I'll do an ad, like, but if you're talking a whole episode, I'm not going to do that. And they go, well, what if we paid you what if we paid you $3,000? And I said no. And they go, what about $6,000? And I said no. And they came back and they said, what about $12,000 for an episode about it? And I go, oh my God, $12,000. Well, now I have to think about it because that's a lot of money to me. That's a lot of money. And I said no. I said no. I said I worried that, like, if I did that, because I'm going to disclose it. Maybe people don't trust my opinion anymore, and then that could tank my whole channel, and then I don't have any income. So I said no. But boy, was that hard. $12,000 to do it, and then what? Then I watch it, and I go, it's actually pretty fun. I liked it. I wouldn't have had a problem saying it was good. So I say no to most ads, just to be clear. And, yeah, that was a tough one. That one's still sort of like, like I obviously the fact that I can remember the numbers and talk to you about them, like, yeah, like it hurts. It hurts to think about sometimes. That would have been that isn't life-changing money, but it's the kind of money that would like change your life for a year. Getting paid $12,000 for an episode. And think about, like, there's a bunch of YouTubers out there. If you have like 1 million subscribers, you're making more than that every episode. I don't make anything close to that, folks. I don't make anything close to that, just so you know. That's why I still have a day job. I couldn't get away. Yeah. Anyway. Nope. That they came after me, those Scottish titles, and it just didn't sound right to me. And I didn't do enough of a deep dive to like know the exact scam. I think was it like CoffeeZilla or somebody that ultimately explained it. But oh my God, that one was such a scam. If you don't know, basically this company was saying you could buy like a square foot of land in Scotland, and that gives you the right to call yourself like Scottish nobility. Like you could say that you're a landowner, and you could say that like I don't know what the title was. It's like you're a duke. I'm the Duke of Comics. But I was like, it doesn't sound right. Just doesn't sound right. And I didn't look into it too much more than that. I just go, just doesn't sound right. Because if you're like selling a star, you're like, you could name a star and it's your star. I'm like, okay, well, obviously that's bullshit. There's no way to enforce it. You're clearly just buying a novelty gift there. That's a novelty gift. But by saying like, oh, by owning this, you have, you can call yourself like legally this title. I was like, nah, that doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound right. No, I've never doxed anybody. I can honestly say, I don't think you will ever see me show up on any sort of like, drama channel. It just isn't going to happen. That's not who I am. But, yeah, I don't know. YouTube is an interesting environment. I will say that. YouTube is very interesting. It definitely rewards a little bit of bad behavior in terms of YouTube knows that people like to look for things that sound dramatic, and that usually involves some sort of drama or, weird claims. Um, but I would get burned out doing like drama type stuff, like complaining about stuff all the time. Uh, I would get burned out, so that's why I don't do it. If that works for somebody else and that's what they want to do with their time, I understand. It pays well. I would get burned out. I'm probably too. I've probably got too much of a, what would you call it? Too much empathy for other people, like too much. I think I have too much. I'm stinky. I don't think I'm even stinky. I'll be honest. When I go to a comic convention, I can promise you that I have showered and extensively and brushed my teeth and flossed. I do all of it because I just don't want to be accused of being the stinky one at a convention. As a YouTuber, how do you deal with burnout? That's not an easy question, to be honest. I don't have an easy answer is maybe how I should phrase it. Um, I don't know that I've figured out how to effectively deal with burnout. I don't know that I have figured that one out. I think that sometimes I just inadvertently take a break. I took a break by taking this trip, right? And what happened? YouTube essentially has punished me because I haven't. I think it's because I haven't put an episode out in a couple weeks. So the Osamu Tezuka one, they just aren't showing to new people or even plenty of subscribers. So it's like, you're like, well, can I even afford to burn out? Because now I've been doing YouTube for several years and I depend on getting a certain amount of income in from that. It's not enough to live on by itself for me, but it's still a portion of what I use to live my life. And so it really hurts, and in some ways this specific instance of the episode not doing as well as I want it to, there's a couple aspects to it. One, I think it will do well over time. I do think it will be evergreen, and I think it will eventually get some good views. I do. Two, personally, I had a sponsor, so I made about the same amount of money that I'll always make, more or less. But I feel a little guilty about it too, because I want to deliver. If I take a sponsor, I want to give them the best I can. And I thought that this one was going to do really well because I was really proud of it and passionate about it. And I thought it would be an interesting angle that I was shooting it in Japan, but that doesn't really translate. They want, a clickbaity thumbnail and thing like why Tezuka was hated by his, coworkers. That would have sold, but I can't do that. It's not in my nature, if that makes sense. I can only be who I am. It's tough. It's tough. Where is my... Oh, I've got a new pen I'm going to try to use. I've got two new pens I'm going to try to use. Give me a sec. I got these in Japan. Got to include my cats in the thumbnails? Maybe. Oh, my coworkers are all awesome, really nice people. I've never had anyone say anything bad about me in any way. No, they mostly think it's cool that I do YouTube. I've never had anybody say anything mean at all. So no, I've never gotten any real life trouble for that. This is a brush pen that should have sort of whiteout type ink, but first I have to get it to get into the hairs of the brush. So I'm sort of squeezing it down until it starts working. And we'll see how sensitive it is. Whoa! Thanks, Sean. That's so nice of you for your YouTube woes and integrity. I was trying to just be transparent with you guys because I thought it might be interesting. I hope you guys don't think I was just whining and begging. I just want to make that clear because I'm fine. But thank you, Sean. Thank you so much. And you know, the least I can do is mention that Sean has a Kickstarter. Let me find the link for that, just because, you know, it's the least I can do. Evermind, written by martial artist and actor Daniel Wu, and illustrated by Sean. Bear with me. I'm going to put this comment in and then show that. It's the least I can do, you know? Wait, is it over? Oh, it's over. I'm sorry. I lost track of it while I was doing all my traveling. I knew it was up and I lost track of it. Well, okay. Good. You hit your budget times four times over. That's great. Sorry, Sean. I feel stupid. I lost track. Yeah, I got the timely scoops. If you want me to talk about like your projects from a year ago, I'm your man. How do I get this stupid thing going? Let me read the okay. Oh, there's something to unscrew. Right? Yeah. There's a thing that keeps it from pumping all the way in. Now it'll work. Now it'll work. Hold on. I was like, this shouldn't take that long. Okay, now I feel it, like the resistance. Okay, so it pierced the little plastic piece. There was like a little ring to take off of that was keeping it from like sort of piercing the tube of white ink. But still, like that's awesome, Sean, because I know the goal was something fairly modest, like 10,000, and you guys like went. I just saw it over 400. I mean over 40,000. So like yeah, like 400% of goal. That's really nice. How much impact do I feel inking has on a comic? It can't be overstated. It's so important. Well, you know what? Let me back off a little on that. It's a little less important in the day and age we're in now because you can do things digitally. You can also, there's better photographic techniques for reprinting and stuff. So there's better technology for both like printing and scanning and stuff. But I think it's still important in terms of truly adding some depth and personality and detail. Oh, absolutely. I'm going to watch them. I've got Disney Plus. I love Doctor Who. So yeah. When do we get, wait, that stuff should get clogged up. Shouldn't you shake it or like stir it? No, I see it coming in. I see it working. It just takes a minute. I can see and hear it moving. It just takes a little while to actually get into the hairs of the brush. There were some other questions. Let's see. When do we get the 3 Chris's story arc? No. Do you have a Comic Tropes video you recall that shocked you and how well it performed? Absolutely. The one about Vince Colletta as an inker. I didn't think anyone would really care about that one. If I knew that one was going to be so well viewed, I might have just found a way to be a little kinder in some way, but I didn't think many people would watch it, and I was being honest. So yeah. I don't know Blood on the Tracks, but thanks for telling me. You can draw while you ink. You can. This is my first time using this particular pen but I've used this brand of regular. Oh, there it comes. Hold on. Whoa. Now it's coming out all globby. I don't like that. It might have come out enough. I'm going to just see if I can do something here. Yep, this will work. I felt like this would be an inconsistent light source to have his whole hand in black. So I'm going to cover a little bit of my mistake up with whiteout. Yeah. I think that'll look better in the long run. I'll come back to this. That's an interesting pen. It's cynical to say, but perhaps that Coletta video is more popular because it approached the drama threshold. Probably did, because I used the word like ruined in it, which I thought was kind of accurate, to be honest, in the sense that I think Jack Kirby did some really gorgeous, really detailed work, and Coletta was erasing a bunch of it. A lot of people that would like have struck back at me say he was hitting his deadline. That's being a professional. I get that argument. I really do. But I don't think that should be the job of the inker to determine that they should erase something that's already been put down. I think that you can like embellish and add, but I don't think you should take away necessarily. Unless you like get on the phone with the artist and say, this is how I think it should look because of X, Y, and Z. I understand the deadline pressure. I don't think it was the right thing to do, but who knows? That was just my take on it. I'm open to people saying that I was wrong. I truly am. I'm going to start doing some of this in brush because I think some of the outside stuff needs some thicker line art to stand out a bit. So yeah, to answer the question, which I took probably too long to do, that was one that surprised me by how well it did. I did not expect that to be an especially popular video. I had tried the same brush. I didn't like it. Well, now I feel bad because I picked one of those up for Daniel Warren Johnson and gave it to him, and he just said, "Yeah, pick me up a pen. Any pen will do." And I was like, "This looks interesting," but maybe that was the wrong choice. Now he's probably like, "I was going to do another interview with Chris, but no, he gave me a bad pen. He gave me a bad free pen. See ya." Oh, I'm so terrible at doing straight lines. Starscream, what a character. What a nut. Thinking he could run the Decepticons. What a nut. Maybe he'll review it on Friday with D-Dubs. Maybe. Yeah, that was interesting that Brat Pack was popular. That surprised me too. Yeah. Do I prefer a more complex Starscream or straight up evil? I think that there was the right amount of complexity in the original, like 86-ish cartoon. You know, any chance of doing a Carl Potts episode with concentration on the criminally underrated Alien Legion? Is a possibility. possibility, Mark, not immediately, but I did read that stuff, and I think Carl Potts is underrated. He also did some important work as an editor. He was and even like an artist and stuff, huh? Because he worked on I think Punisher War Journal with Jim Lee. What's the deal with inking? I mean, is it for fun or for work? Like, what's the deal? I have not. I have not. Matt, yes, he's talented. What is your favorite superhero non-comic media? Okay, superhero non-comic. So it could, for instance, be like, Guardians of the Galaxy movie or something like that, right? Or an album or a painting or something like that, or a ride. Guys asking all the easy questions tonight, huh? Oh, I've been going over 2 hours. Darn it. I'm not going to be able to finish all of this tonight. I'll pick this up next week. I'll pick this up next week. I didn't realize how long it was taking. Maybe it changes, it changes. When I was a teenager, I might have said the Crow movie, when I was a younger teenager. Because it hit me at a certain, like, superhero non-comic. I really liked the first Across the Spider-Verse animated movie. I really like that. I'll say that for now. Infamous, sure. Oh, how about My Life? Does that count? Remember, I spent that year dressing up as a superhero and fighting crime with Phoenix Jones. Oh my God. My Life. I'll just choose My Life as my favorite comics media. Non-comics superhero media. I hope that makes sense. Thanks for all the challenging questions. I'll keep inking this guy and hopefully get something good when I'm done. I'll just have to take more time and cover it up with lots of detail. Figure out the lighting source for sure. The Real Life Adventures of Omega and Friends. Gantz was good in the beginning, but Oku's new books are way too much. Haven't read it. Yeah. Mighty Mouse. I loved that cartoon when I was really little. Loved it. I guess I'm going to call it here, folks, because I need to have dinner, and I'm working on comic tropes. So I'm doing everything I can to have an episode out this weekend that would tie in with Halloween, because I feel like I owe you guys something based on horror, but maybe also something funny, maybe, if I can get it right. So thank you. You loved my episode on being an actual superhero. And I mean, was I a superhero? I didn't have powers or anything. I'm just saying that, like, we did all dress up in suits and masks, and we did, get in fights and help people, like, get emergency aid and track people. It was just bonkers. I had a great time tonight, folks. Thank you all for the comments and the super chats. And if there's anything I can ask of you, please consider watching the Comic Tropes episode on Osamu Tezuka and potentially hitting like maybe a comment or a share, those types of things. So that would mean a lot to me. Probably most of you have already done it, to be honest. But thank you so much for joining me. I will be back next week, and you'll probably see me before then because I'm pretty sure I can get the next Comic Tropes episode up before Halloween. So that's what I'm working on. Yes, I won't forget to eat my factory meals. I've actually finished them, but we're going to order a bunch more. Thank you all for saying that you already did it. I had a great time talking with all of you. We'll see you real soon. Keep reading comics. Double salute. Didn't see that one coming, did you?